Who hasn't thought about how and when it will end? I think about it from time to time. Sounds tragic, doesn't it? But it is natural, considering that we are finite beings, able to think, plan, and philosophize about ourselves and everything around us. And if it's tempting to think about the end of our existence, imagine predicting the fate of all humanity. Sounds much more fascinating. And it is no wonder that there are numerous scientific researchers trying to answer this question, not only to satisfy a curiosity, but to raise possible solutions that can understand our passage here. And that's exactly what we're here to present to you in today's video. Let's talk about some studies that have collected data from the last mass extinction events to anticipate what risks we will have to face in the coming years. Some phenomena will only affect us millions of years from now, but there are others that are much, much closer and with a set date, November 2026. Currently, there is no shortage of threats that can lead us to extinction, wars, worsening climate change. Not to mention natural events that are totally out of our control and taking away those dangers that we ourselves provoke. Everything else is much more common than we can imagine. If we look at it from a certain perspective, it seems that nature always finds a way to renew itself from time to time. This is what a group of researchers from the University of Bristol in the United Kingdom found. Definitely the incident. With the dinosaurs, it is the best known to us, but our planet has already witnessed at least 5 major occurrences like this. And no wonder, considering that our home is already at least 4.5 billion years old, and that life has been wandering around for about 3.5 billion years. The first mass extinction is known as the Silurian Ordovician, and happened 445 million years ago, destroying approximately 85% of the species that lived here at that time. The beings were still concentrated in the oceans, which were precisely the areas most affected. Scientists believe there was a sudden drop in temperatures, which formed huge glaciers, drastically lowering sea levels. After that, the waters went through a period of rapid warming. Most species cannot withstand fluctuations. Another very important event, the Permian extinction, occurred 250 million years ago and wiped out about 95% of the species that inhabited the Earth, including most of the vertebrates that had already begun to evolve. The causes of these incidents are probably related to changes in the atmosphere. But it is not possible to say what would have caused them. Leading theories state that the planet may have been hit by a large asteroid that blocked the sun and filled the air with particles, producing acid rain. And there are those who argue that a large volcanic explosion may have increased carbon dioxide levels, acidifying the oceans. But the phenomenon best known to us for sure was the Cretaceous mass extinction, which happened 66 million years ago. It wiped out about 80% of all living things on Earth, including the non-avian dinosaur species that had survived the last event. This disaster was probably caused by an asteroid that hit Earth in what is now Mexico, and it must have been aggravated by increased volcanic activity in the region where it is today. There's India. This contributed to the collapse of the large animals that lived here and that were already adapted to the climate, vegetation, a well-defined food chain, and could not survive the sudden changes. However, these transformations allowed the rise of a new group of animals that adapted very well to the new conditions and came to reign on the planet, the mammals. The mammals were able to stand out very well, especially with its ability to withstand temperature variations, one of the things that most affected the beings that came before us. And that's why mammals managed to spread and conquer basically every continent on the planet. Mammals managed to regulate temperature through the circulatory system of sweat glands, responsible for sweat, as the name suggests, through the coat. From the accumulation of fat in adipose tissue, and even behaviors, such as species that hibernate during winter to preserve themselves from low temperatures and food shortages. The problem is that we are better at warming ourselves than cooling ourselves. Animals that live in very cold climates or that go through a glacial event are able to maintain body temperature more easily than those that need to cool their bodies when they are in very hot climates. And that's why the conclusion of this Bristol study is that we would probably be able to survive another ice age, but we would certainly have a hard time enduring the consequences of global warming. And here we are not just talking about the effects that we are causing, such as the emission of gases that increase the greenhouse effect, deforestation, the use of non-renewable energy sources, and so on. We're already talking about something bigger. That will be caused by three main factors: the drift of the continents, the increase in solar radiation, and the increase in volcanic activity. It turns out that the tectonic plates that are moving beneath our feet are going to form a new big single continent, ultimate Pangea. This name does not necessarily mean that this will be the last major continent cycle, but it will probably be the last for us. At that time, our sun will already be burning much more hydrogen, which is its fuel, and will be emitting at least 2.5% more radiation than normal. In addition, volcanoes will be much more active due to plate drift, which will produce more CO2 emissions, producing an already known effect, the greenhouse effect. And all this will cause the average temperature of the Earth to be around 40 degrees to 70 degrees. Which doesn't seem like much, but it sure is. Considering that this average nowadays is 15 degrees, it seems strange, but that's right. The average is very influenced by strangers. So this is an approximate number, even if your city, for example, has never reached such a temperature. But stay calm, okay? As much as this is the final deadline for humans on this planet, it should not come before 250,000 years. Until then, we'll have to find another way out. But that doesn't mean we don't have anything to worry about, right? In addition to the reasons that are already keeping us awake lately, such as wars, the advance of global warming that we mentioned, there are other dangers provoked by ourselves, but not directly. This is the rapid growth of our population. This factor has worried many people throughout history. Thomas Malthus, British economist and mathematician, was one of the most notorious exponents. Malthus developed the Malthusian population theory, which was named in his honor. In general terms, it is quite simple. The more people there are in the world, the more people will exist, as the reproduction rate increases exponentially as the number of humans also grows. The point is that at some point, planet Earth's usable space will not be able to house everyone, and we will also not be able to produce enough food for everyone, which will trigger an economic and environmental collapse that may lead to the extinction of our species. Although Thomas Malthus was one of the most notorious people to speak on the subject, he did not perform precise calculations to determine what the limit would be for the growth of our population. This was the responsibility of Heinz von Foerster and his team, who created the doomsday equation in 1960, a theory that was even published in Science magazine, one of the most respected academic journals in the world. According to their calculations, the day when the human population will reach a point where natural resources will no longer be able to sustain it is not far away. It's 11 to 16 Tianj 2026. The equation was based on a few factors, especially population growth rates up to that time, and the human capacity to create resources and renew those that need to be consumed, especially food and fuel. No need to get desperate, okay? At least not yet. That's because population growth rates are slowing in several regions of the world, which in part reduces the risk of an immediate collapse. But we cannot close our eyes and ignore the problem. According to the Global Research Institute Foodprint Network, which measures our consumption of natural resources, on the first day of August this year, we reached Overload Day, the moment when humanity would have already consumed all available resources for the year. This means that it would take 1.7 Earths to support humans. Currently, however, we only have one planet, which means that these remaining 0.7 we spend on credit accumulating waste, consuming inputs beyond what we should, which burdens our future. At this rate, it's clear that the planet won't be able to endure for that long. But that doesn't mean our end is so near, okay? Like I said, we can't be negligent. And if we continue to ignore the way we live and consume our resources, by the time we realize it, it will be too late. See you next time. Ooh.